Hey guys, welcome to This Month in Music for February 2018. As always, I'm Andy.
I'm Caleb.
We got a lot to talk about this month. Caleb and I are really excited. Of course, we got some new music, including the new Black Panther album, some new Post Malone music. We'll talk about the God's Plan music video that came out this month, and even Young Thug's name change to Sex. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, we're really excited to have you guys here. Caleb, how you doing?
I'm doing so well. I'm so excited to be back. We had such an interesting month of February after a crazy January. We started off a little bit slow, but we picked it up on the second half, and we're here. And we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, a lot of cool content. Thank you for tuning in once again for our second episode of the year. Obviously, you can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us on YouTube. I know last month I told you all we'd be up, but we didn't get an opportunity to put it up on YouTube. But we will for sure be up for the February episode. Once again, thank you for all your comments. Thank you for the feedback. We really appreciate it. We're going to continue to utilize it on the show, and we appreciate y'all. We had some fun things to talk about. One of the first things I wanted to talk about was what we finished talking about last month, and that was about Black Panther. We kind of we're talking about the anticipation of it and what to look out for, but it came early February. We got a little sneak preview of the track list, and then mid-February we got to actually hear the soundtrack and hear how it went. So Andy, would you like to start us off? How was it for you? How was the Black Panther soundtrack? Did it live up to the expectations?
Short answer, yes. Long answer, I was really excited as soon as I saw the track list drop to see more songs with Kendrick, to see Vince Staples on this, to see Anderson .Paak on this, Travis Scott, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be really good. And then once it came out, I was not disappointed. I was thrilled to hear Kendrick Lamar appearing more than he was listed in the track list and more than he's listed on Spotify and iTunes. He appears on most every song here. He does hook work on X. He does some background work on The Ways, background work on I Am. He does some work on Paramedics, a verse on Opps. He's all over this thing. So that was great. But that being said, it's definitely not a Kendrick Lamar album. You may be disappointed if you go into it expecting it being a Kendrick Lamar album. It still is a soundtrack for Black Panther, but Kendrick Lamar comes in and accompanies that. He adopts that idea of Black Panther so well. And we see that right off the bat from the first track that is Black Panther, where we hear Kendrick rapping very introspectively over this beat, and then it switches up into some hard-hitting beat with hard bars, and it's kind of more banger, and it switches back and forth. But we hear him rapping about what it looks like to be king, and that goes for T'Challa, the main character of the movie, and for himself and kind of his role in Compton, and talks about the pressure on him from his ancestors and from his people that T'Challa is also experiencing. So kind of right off the bat opens up explaining how he is the right person almost to carry this album, that he has the credentials because of his own experiences in Compton. He has the experiences to reflect what T'Challa and Eric Killmonger do in the movie and can write from their perspective. And that's really cool right off the bat to hear. And then it's great tracks all over this thing. Opps with Vince Staples and the South African rapper Yungen Blakrok, who has a killer verse on Opps. That song was so great. One of my favorites on the album. It was featured in a really cool chase scene in the movie. No spoilers, but Caleb, what else? What did you think of this album?
Yeah, no, for sure. I love the analysis of the Black Panther, the first song. For me, I really, just you putting it into context kind of helps me understand better after seeing the movie. Yeah, but we knew the joint was going to be good. It's safe to say that I was surprised about the track list when it came out, because there's so many names that I recognized immediately. But then there's also some hidden gems on there, just some low key names that I had some brief knowledge about. One of them that stood out to me was SOB, and that was I had heard them on Frank Ocean's radio, his Blonded Radio. They had one of his tracks called Anti on there. I checked it out. I was like, oh, this group's amazing. But I thought their song on there with Kendrick was like one of my like ones that stood out. The song was called Paramedic. It was one of the dopest tracks on there. And for me, the thing that put it over the edge was that they put a squad from Northern California on the soundtrack. And I thought that was so cool because the movie has tons of scenes, multiple scenes in Oakland, California. It's also like the home place of the director, Ryan Coogler's. It's like his hometown. It's like the birthplace of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. It's just like at the end of the movie, you obviously are able to see like a lot of things that are going to be happening. I won't give any spoilers, but Oakland was like a key place there, and the fact that they brought a group from Northern California, I thought really hit on this theme of the whole album and like getting people from different locations. They did a lot of, they got a lot of artists from like South Africa as well, which I thought was like amazing and really cool for the album. It was awesome. Kendrick and TD did it justice by including them on the joint. Some other things that like stood out to me was like Kendrick's ability to take like a seat, like like to step back for a second. He wasn't like the lead. This
to
wasn't
go to
his
step
album.
to the side.
Yeah, he's stepping aside, and as you mentioned, he has like these beautiful, like just little parts on, like he plays a little part in every song there, like whether that's like playing a hook or singing a hook, or whether that's doing like some harmonies. Like he just does such a well job of like intricating into the album, and just like you don't even notice him. It just like the way that he puts the album together is so awesome, so great. I thought that was so well done. You also see his versatility, and like he had one of his tracks, New Freezer by with Rich the Kid. He takes that verse that he had on there and he put it on Big Shot, which I thought was like incredible how he could like same lyrics and he can switch it up for the different type of beat that was on there. Yeah. I thought that was so cool. Yeah, so for me, this album, all around, one of my favorite soundtracks. One of my favorite soundtracks that I've heard before. I got to give kudos to TDE and the whole group for not just like putting together a really well soundtrack, but grabbing people from different regions and different areas and making it more of a global sound. You know what I mean? This is not an American album. This is a global album that connects to people from all around the globe.
He did a great job of representing the movie with this album, with the artists that are on it and the instrumentals and the music that we hear on it too. Right. We hear samples from the actual score, which was scored by Ludwig Göransson, also the producer for most of Childish Gambino's music. And director Ryan Coogler encouraged Ludwig to go to Africa and find as many African instruments as he could to use on this score. And we hear those same instruments and samples appear on this soundtrack, along with these South African artists like Babes Wodumo and Yungen Blakrok and Saudi. And we hear these unfamiliar voices, but they fit with this sound and with this film so well that it's really exciting. And then also hearing Kendrick rap from the perspective of T'Challa and rap from the perspective of Eric Killmonger and go back and forth between that and be able to blend that and his California roots, which is Eric Killmonger's roots. And Kendrick did a really good job of kind of creating a companion piece for Black Panther.
Absolutely. And like lastly, I think it was so cool just to even add some other cool like little pieces he had. He had Georgia Smith on I Am, which is kind of like in the middle of the soundtrack, and I think it was a great transition from the beginning going into the end. That's a very personal song. I think it ties into the movie really well with a lot of the themes that were going on in Black Panther. And then also just Zakari, who was on Love by Kendrick. He's in there as well, like a couple of times. Does like a little interlude and does the beginning of Paramedic. He just pairs so well with Kendrick and TDE. Like
hearing more from him is really exciting because I feel like most people have only heard him on Love, but to hear him on Redemption and like hear him have a really big spot on Redemption is super cool.
Right. And I saw him live back in Orange County when I was living in California, and he's like incredible live, and he has stuff that he just hasn't put out yet. So keep an eye out for him. He's going to be dropping something in 2018 from what I've heard. So there's so many artists on here that like I spent like hours looking on Apple Music. Like, what is their stuff? Like international artists, domestic artists, like there's so many people that he gave us an opportunity to like go into their world and increase our knowledge of music music from different areas. So I thought it was a great joint. Kudos to Kendrick and TDE for the Black Panther soundtrack.
Yeah. Also, we saw the King's Dead video come out this month, which we talked about the track last month. That video was super fun, super exciting, super visually
Day free
appealing. We loved that. We also heard that along with this Black Panther thing, Kendrick and SZA and TDE are being sued for their All the Stars video for allegedly stealing artwork from a British artist, Lena Iris Victor. So we'll watch to see how that develops. Right. And similarly, Caleb, do you want to tell them about us?
Yeah, we got in a little bit of trouble. You've noticed that within our first 10 minutes, we haven't had any samples or any other sounds to add. We got hit with a little copyright warning. So our January episode was taken down because of that. Don't worry, we're going to continue to put it up. We're going to continue to make podcasts. But for now, that's just something that we're going to be working on and being a little bit cautious of. So you're going to notice that you won't hear any samples for the rest of the podcast. Don't freak out. We're going to find a way to overcome this. This is just part of the initial struggles. But yeah, so we're kind of the same boat as Kendrick and SZA.
So yeah, ironically enough, we got copyright infringement for King's Dead for featuring that song in our last podcast. Yeah. So Universal Music Group, the same company that called us out for copyright infringement, is now being sued for copyright infringement. So suck it, Universal Music Group.
Right, exactly. Andy said it best. So true. But we're going to continue to be out here for y'all.
Yeah, we also had finally, we got to hear the album from Richard Russell, Everything is Recorded. Right. Under his stage name, Everything is Recorded. Caleb, what do you think of that?
Yeah, dude, honestly, a couple months ago, I had no idea who this Richard Russell guy was. I know he dropped like an EP with a few songs with Sampha, and so like the only reason I listened to it was because of Sampha. But if you actually get to hear some background about Richard Russell, he's an incredible person that's been in the music business for quite a long time.
Yeah, he's a London-based producer that's been producing work for, I don't know,
tons
40,
of people.
Not 40 years, but like a lot of years.
It's been a while, yeah. He's like a DJ, he's like a solo artist, record producer, label guy, A&R, does all that stuff. He's worked with like Radiohead, White Stripes, like he found Adele, like worked with Frank Ocean on some Chanel and Blonde stuff. Like I don't know if it was Chanel, but he worked on with him with Blondes. And so he's obviously a name that's well recognized in the producing and like business, but he did a tremendous job. So he dropped this joint called Everything is Recorded. And it's a very interesting album. Like, I don't even, it's just to describe it is very difficult. One of the ways that I'll put it, it ties in the old and the new so well. Like he has so many incredible samples from like Curtis Mayfield, from artists from like 70s, 60s, has that type of sound, but has it over like 808 beats and like this
He has this recurring sample from some televangelist that like
from
occurs
Austin, Texas,
throughout the album.
Like yeah. And so the beginning of the album is so fascinating. Like I've never seen an intro where like the intro samples the whole album. Like it's like you're in a dream and it kind of like gives you like a little sneak peek of what the whole album's gonna look like. So you'll hear Sampha sing one of his verses off Close but Not Quite. Then you'll hear Sid come in. You'll hear Giggs rap. Like it's really quick. So it gives you a
they're
preview
all super
of it.
short, like very short appearances.
Very short appearances. But then it leads into, I mean, Sampha's first song starts off, so it kind of sets the mood, and you can definitely tell it's a different type of sound. You can definitely tell there's a lot of production on here, a lot of layering, a lot of sampling, a lot of like experimental stuff. One of my favorite things, and this is the last thing I'll say, I'll let you say some stuff, Andy. They have Kamashi Washington on there, who's like, he's worked with Kendrick on Pimp a Butterfly. He's a great jazz musician. But he is on there as well, and he's on a couple of joints, and like just having the saxophone over like a Giggs, who's a grime rapper from London, just having them collaborate together definitely ties in with that theme on there of the old and the new. So for me, like this is a very experimental album, and I think it took Richard Russell a long time to put it together, but it's a masterpiece, and the more you listen to it, the better it gets, I'd say.
Yeah, I would totally agree. It does get better as you listen. I want to say right off the bat, my biggest problem with it, which has become less and less of a problem the more I listen to it. At first, I wasn't thrilled about this album, but if I had to point out one flaw, it's that I think it sometimes struggles to find a sense of unity because it is so disjunct with features from so many different people.
Right.
It struggles to find this like home base to like come back to and be based around. But I think we find that in David Russell's instrumentals and his production, and it really creates a sense of that. And hearing some of these and hearing some of these features show up multiple times. We hear Kamasi Washington multiple times. We hear Sampha so much. We hear the artist known as Infinite show up a few times. Yeah. So to hear them multiple times, it starts to create this sense of unity, and it is really interesting as an experimental album with so many artists on it, and it's not a soundtrack, but it also doesn't feel like a typical like one artist album. But there's so many great parts of this album. Even if there are flaws in the whole unity of it, every part is so great. Every Sampha feature is so great. The Kamasi Washington bits are great. Infinite is great. The Gig song is so good. Mm-hmm. She Said featuring this guy's name who I can't even pronounce. But I'll try. Yeah. Embarrassingly. Oben JR. Yeah. Obong JR. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's a London artist. Yeah, with Kamasi. That song is great. So there's so many great pieces of it that it ends up creating a very good album that I very, very much enjoyed.
Yeah, dude. And I thought it was cool. Like, it has a concept kind of like this everything is recorded, and like a lot of people think, oh, it's about surveillance or the internet or data. But it's like more, I think, when I was reading about Richard Russell, like he suffers with this this disorder. I forgot the name of like the disease that he has. But he struggles with that, and so he's had like near death experiences, and like so is Sampha and stuff. So like the album's about like capturing every moment, like everything's recorded, like living in the moment, living in that time. Like, I mean, moments are all very different, and you like just to be able to share them and like reflect back on them is so precious and stuff. And so Sampha closes out the album so well with like the song is called Everything Is Recorded.
With the song Everything Recorded, yeah.
And it just like it feels like it ends like perfectly. You know what I mean? Like, and just it's like a feeling of hope at the very end, but also with a little bit of like a little bit of a spin on it. So kudos to Richard Russell and the whole Everything Is Recorded. Everyone who worked on it, I thought it was a brilliant joint.
Yeah, and you see this theme, the same theme of Everything Is Recorded, as you were just saying, and seizing every moment, represent itself kind of through all the various features that are on it. And it feels like any time Richard Russell is working with any artist, he's recording music, and just everything is recorded. And he's been working on this project for over 3 years before it finally got released. So like, it really does feel like it reflects this theme of Everything Is Recorded. Yeah. And yeah, I really do think it works pretty well.
Yeah, it was a journey for him. Dude, so there's some other stuff. So we've only talked about two things, but let's continue to move on. Andy, what was one of your favorite joints of the month? What did you enjoy?
Ooh, favorite joint, probably my number one favorite joint of the month, surprisingly enough, was this track Cocky by Gucci Mane, 21 Savage, and ASAP Rocky, and produced by London on the Track. Surprisingly, I enjoyed this a lot because I'm not a big fan of really any of the artists on this. Like, I don't hate any of them. I just don't actively go out of my way to be a fan of 21 Savage or Gucci Mane or even ASAP Rocky. I'm just not as familiar with his work.
Right.
But I loved this. I think they all deliver some of their coolest, most swaggerous and braggadocious bars that I've heard from them. 21 Savage has a great flow that just doesn't feel stiff or boring as I think he kind of does sometimes, and same with Gucci Mane. I think he can fall into the same area where he just feels kind of boring and monotone, but he has interesting flow. 21 has interesting flow. ASAP Rocky really brings it, and it is a great banger, a great bragging track.
Yeah, dude.
Caleb,
Shout out.
Caleb, did you like it?
I dug it. Honestly, like I'm at a point now where like I was never a fan of ASAP, but anything ASAP touches and the projects that he does, I'm really a fan of. And like and for them, it's not about lyrical content. Like for them, it's more about the flow and like being very innovative in the way that they present their flow and how they add ad libs and how they go about just making people like that's a joint that just makes you want to dance, makes you want to like love life. I don't know. And that what's music at the end of the day, it's these beats and sounds that bring you joy. And like, I think ASAP does a really good job at doing that and making people have a great time. So it was a cool joint. Loved it.
There's a project that you really loved by Ravyn Lenae that came out.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude, like that's my joint. And I was really excited because Steve Lacy's one of my favorite young artists right now. And so he helped produce her with the track. And obviously I'm a huge fan of Smino. And so he partners and collaborates a lot with her. So I was really excited for this. I've heard her other 2 EPs and I've really loved it. But this one, she really brung it. And I've heard a lot about Steve Lacy and her collaborating, just hearing their interviews. And they work really well together. They said it's like a Pharrell and like Justin Timberlake kind of type of feel. Normally she's very closed with her writing. It doesn't open it up to show people, but like she felt comfortable showing Steve Lacy, and like Steve Lacy has this ability to have a very unique sound. Like he makes a majority of his music off his iPhone, which is insane, but it's really well produced still. But he has like this guitar sound. You can definitely tell it's like it's like a psychedelic type of feel.
Yeah, it's like this psychedelic guitar that makes you feel like you're in a trance or in a dream or something. You can tell that it's a guitar, but it doesn't sound like a guitar that you've heard anywhere else.
Yeah, and Steve Lacy does a great job of that. But like, I got to give kudos to Ravyn on this. Like, her range is incredible. Like, the first song, Sticky, and it's just like, I like that song is a song where you can see her, obviously, she's matured so much where she can take risk and, like, go to different ranges. And, like, Steve's still working with her on that, you know, and, like, still, like, able to vibe. And, like, it just comes together so well. And they're fun songs. Like, they have this one song called The Night Song, and it's, like, has this really catchy, like, little hook to it and stuff. And, like, Steve Lacy actually wrote that part with her, and so it's just funny seeing Steve Lacy, who's in the band The Internet, step out and like do like more of a more feminine like type of song, but it works really well. And one of my
to hear him continue to establish himself as an artist, and like not just with his own stuff or with The Internet or with Tyler the Creator, but like branch out to these other artists now is like exciting to see him grow.
Yeah, he's becoming a household name at like 19. Like he just graduated high school and he's doing all this stuff, and a lot of people want to work with him. But I thought it was cool that he worked with Ravyn. He didn't go on the trend of working with like a J. Cole or Kendrick. Like he worked with Ravyn, who's an up and coming star, and like really like them together is like really exciting to see. And I'm curious if they'll drop future EPs or what. But for now, like, I enjoyed it a ton. Computer Love, which we'll go over our top 5 tracks later, but that definitely made it onto like my top 5 tracks. And just a fun song about like early 2000s, you know, and like being in love with like AOL and like IMing and like all that stuff. I thought it was a cool flashback, and it's a fun
Closer, song. Ode to You is one of my favorite tracks on that album. I think that's a really good one. You hear Steve Lacy come in like at the very end. And Ravyn crushes that whole song, so I really like that one.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And then, so we had another song from our boy Post Malone. Dropped something. He hasn't dropped something in a little bit, but he dropped something. Andy, what did you think of the track that he dropped?
Man, what do I say about this Post Malone track? It's good. It's not great, but it's good. It sounds very Post Malone. It's kind of what you would expect. I think it's good. I don't think it's better than Rockstar or better than Candy Paint even, which I loved. I think Candy Paint's super underrated. But I think it's good. I think it's exciting. I'm excited to hear more music from him. I'm excited for Beer Bongs and Bentleys to come out. It's nice to hear more Post Malone and to kind of keep the hype train rolling. Yeah. Ty Dolla $ign I could live without personally. He shows up on this track, but yeah, if you like Post Malone, I guess you should check it out. The track is called Psycho, and like I said, it features Ty Dolla $ign. You should check it out if you like Post Malone. If you really don't like Post Malone, you probably really won't like this track, so stay away from it.
Right. And so we went over some stuff. We went over some great stuff, and I wanted to continue to give our listeners an opportunity just to hear some new music. I know there's times where you can feel like you're stuck, like I need some like new ideas and new music to check out. And so Andy and I are gonna like create this new segment, or we're gonna go ahead and start with this new segment starting in our February month. It's gonna be like top 5 songs of the month. So we're quickly in like 1 minute gonna go over like our top 5 joints of the month. So
some stuff that maybe we talked about already, some stuff that maybe we didn't talk about, just because maybe not both of us listened to it. So just want to give more opportunities for you guys to hear more music.
So hopefully by the end of this, you'll get to walk away with 10 new artists that you can go search, or 10 new songs you can go search. But so Andy, you want to start us off with your top 5 of the month for February?
Yes, I will. 3 of mine you've already heard us discuss. I loved Cocky. I loved Opps by Vince Staples and Kendrick and Yungen Blakrok on the Black Panther album. And Everything Is Recorded. The song featuring Sampha that shows up at the end of Everything Recorded, the album, by Everything Is Recorded, the artist. So very confusing, but check out the song. And then 2 that we haven't talked about yet, Suu Whoop by YG was a great banger by YG that came out this month. YG's hit or miss, but this one was a smash hit. Definitely at least a triple, maybe a home run. And this song called Stay Safe by Rhye off of his album Blood that came out this month.
Oh, yeah.
Very good song, very good album. Like mellow, kind of feels like a cross between like Cigarettes After Sex, but like more electronic. If you like that kind of like mellow, chilled out music, Bon Iver, Sufjan Stevens, you might like this one. He's got some mellow vocals, so check that out.
Yeah,
Caleb, how about yours? What did you love?
For sure, those are some great 5. For myself, one of my favorite joint of like the month was this EP by Earthgang. So Earthgang is a signee from Dreamville. So Kaz and Earthgang both dropped some stuff this month. So kudos to Dreamville. They've had a huge year in 2017, 2018. But the joint I picked off that EP was the song called Nothing But the Best. It's a fun. It has a great hook, fun joint that goes back and forth between Earthgang and them rapping in it. And then my second one is this song called Christopher and Sixth by Blood Orange. So Blood Orange is an artist that's been around for a little bit. He's coming back with a new album that's dropping this year, but dropped a quick EP called Black History, which was like 2... had 2 songs on there, and Christopher and Sixth was one of them, so you can check that out. My third one was one I mentioned already by Ravyn, and that was Computer Love. Fourth, I had Jon Waltz, who's this up-and-coming indie rock artist who also raps a little bit as well, with his song called Backstreets. And then lastly, SOB and Kendrick with Paramedic. So those are my 5 for the month. Please go and check them out and give us some feedback.
Yeah. Let's get into some other news topics for February.
We had a big video that came out this month, and it got a lot of hype from all around, not just people in music, but athletes and just philanthropists and celebrities really shouted out for this one. So, Andy, what was that? What was the video called?
We had Drake's God's Plan video, which Drake quoted saying it was his most important work he's ever done. So if you haven't seen it, this video features Drake. It kind of starts out with this black title card saying this video had a budget of like $990,000, like almost $1 million. We used it all to give it away. Like that's how they justified that big of a budget, is they just gave it away. So it's kind of this video of this song. Really good cinematography throughout the video. Yeah, so the song's playing and it's Drake going around kind of just giving money to people. Before you start like shitting on that idea, he's in Miami and he's not just like going around, it's not like a YouTube like prankster that's just going around handing money to people and seeing how they react. He's giving it to people in need. He's going into lower privileged communities. He's donating money to schools, to scholarships, to families that really need help. And while this can be viewed as kind of a publicity stunt, a kind of a photo op, which I do think it has that aspect. No. This song, this video, it did more net good than net negative. Like, even if it is just a publicity stunt, Drake still gave away almost $1 million to people who need that money. And he encouraged fans on Instagram after the video dropped to go out and do something nice for people. And he said you don't have to hashtag it. You don't have to make it a big social media post. Like, don't make this about me. Just make it about helping people. And I think that kind of put a cool lens on what Drake was trying to do. From my initial viewing, I was like, oh, Drake's kind of like, he's just kind of being a tool. He's using his money as a way to be like, look, I can help people. Look how cool I am. Put me in the headlines. But I actually think his goal was to do some good with this video. So I appreciated it. Caleb,
I do too.
I said a lot, but what'd you think?
No, for sure. And like, yeah, last thing, can Drake close the wealth gap? No. Would it have been wiser for him to offer money opposed to like expensive clothes? Yes. Does any of that matter? No, it doesn't. Like it really doesn't matter. The fact that like he went out and he put his heart out there, and it's not like God's Planet visual. It's not a humanitarian intervention. It's a music video, and I think we forget that. It does exactly what like a music video is supposed to do, and it creates like a visual narrative that kind of like introduces us to some like seriously inspirational characters, and it leaves us feeling entertained and with a smile on our face. And I think that's exactly what it did.
And it gets a ton of views.
And a ton of views from the 6, views from wherever you want it to be from. But
it has currently there's 2 different uploads of it on YouTube, 2 different official uploads of it. Together, they are raking in at over 100 million views, so it definitely did some numbers. All right, next up, got one of the weirdest headlines that I read this month. Artist, Chicago white rapper, and friend of Chance the Rapper, Tokyo, announced that he was going to be dropping his album, www. Which came out this past month. He was going to be dropping it from space.
What?
So, what that meant
please
to
tell
him
me. I have no idea what this means.
Taking he was in this like small little container that he fit in, that he could sit in, and took a helium balloon up to almost 100,000 feet.
Damn, wow.
And listened to the album. He went up 92,000 feet, listened to the album, and then parachuted back down in the thing. He didn't free fall parachute. He parachuted in this capsule back down to Earth. It came out with this really corny video of him like not live streaming, but like an edit of him in this capsule, listening to it, crying because he's seeing Earth from a different perspective. This whole thing, to me, first of all, he went 92,000 feet in the air and said he dropped it from space. It takes very little research to find out that scientists almost all agree space starts at more than 320,000 feet in the sky, 100 kilometers above sea level. He went 92,000 feet. So he was definitely in the stratosphere, which they say in the video, which is the layer above
atmosphere,
our kind of normal breathing layer. But airplanes fly in the stratosphere. So he went really high. He took a air balloon really high and listened to an album and came back down, but he didn't drop this album from space. It was kind of a cool thing. Like, I get what he was doing. It was kind of cool, but I think it turned out a little bit corny.
Question.
The video is really corny.
Did that album get received? Did they find it?
No, he didn't actually drop a physical album, which I was hoping he would. But I think it's too dangerous to open the door or like open the window or something from up there.
That's so lame. Then there's so many.
He listened to it in space, and then dropped himself. I think there was like the album was attached. There was a hard copy of the album attached to the capsule. You can see this in the video. We can link that in the show notes. The video.
Okay.
Attached to the outside of the capsule is a hard copy of the album. So when he drops down, like when he parachutes back down to the surface of the Earth, I guess that could be viewed as the album was dropping.
Got it. Okay.
It was a publicity stunt. It was definitely interesting.
Did we see Tokyo
live?
But
it was. Yes, we saw Tokyo live. He opened for Chance a few years ago.
Right. That's where I was like, this guy sounds so familiar.
I'm not the biggest fan of Tokyo, but if you like Tokyo, all power to you. Yeah. You probably liked this album. I was not thrilled with it.
Yeah, none of my favorite artists have dropped from space, or dropped from 100,000 feet, 98,000 feet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's something.
Yeah, and also subplot, not subplot, but side note. Lil Yachty announced this month. Lil Boat 2 is dropping on March 9th. So I was really excited about that. You can definitely expect us to be talking about that next month because I am a huge Lil Yachty fan. I don't know that Caleb is, but I'm excited about that.
I respect Yachty and what he's doing. His mom's a teacher too, so I got mad respect from one teacher to another teacher. So, yes. All right. I think this is one of our last headlines, or almost last. Young Thug had some interesting news this past week. A lot. He was dropping a lot of stuff. So supposedly he changed his last name to not last name. Sorry, his name.
Not his last name. His name
to Sex. SEX. Capital SEX. So out of the blue,
in some tweet that we don't have verbatim, but he just said, "I will now be called Sex. Like now refer to me as Sex." Like what?
Yeah, no idea. Only thing I really can come to understand. I think a few years ago he had changed his name as well. So
in 2016,
was it 2016?
Right before he dropped Jeffrey.
Right before he dropped Jeffrey. So what did he change his name to again? 300. What was it? He changed his name.
No, he changed his name to Jeffrey.
Right for that album, he changed his name to Jeffrey. Yeah, and the album was called.
Which
Jeffrey.
is it's his birth given name. His name is Jeffrey, but he went by Jeffrey for the release of that album, but then changed it back after a week.
So it was just a week. So I guess that has us thinking: is an album called Sex going to drop next week? Thoughts
for me was maybe, but then the very next day he said that he, in an interview, who was this interview with? It was like with some fashion company,
right?
A video interview at Fashion Week. He said that he won't be releasing music for a year because he has a brother that is deaf. Don't know if this is a brother as in friend or brother as in an actual biological brother that is deaf. So out of respect for his brother, he's going to act deaf for a year. What?
Yeah, kind of out of the blue.
What does he mean by act deaf? Does that mean he's going to just not release music, or is he going to actually learn sign language and not speak?
And then he said, don't worry, 2019, I'm probably going to put out high tunes. So he assured us right there that don't worry.
Yeah, highly anticipated.
We won't hear anything for an entire year, but don't worry, in 2019, I'll probably put out high tunes. So,
which is it's been a long anticipated Young Thug. Oh, sorry, not Young Thug. It's been a long anticipated Sex album. But yeah, I don't know. This whole thing is kind of weird to me. Like, I feel like he would do more good. I was talking to my sister about this. I was feeling like he would just do more good if he donated a bunch of money to maybe deaf research or a deaf school or awareness. Like,
or what does Chance do?
Donate money to promote learning of American Sign Language or something.
Yeah,
because don't just not release music for a year.
Right, and you've seen Chance, who has tons of fans who are hard of hearing, and he has a interpreter at the concert interpreting for him. You know what I mean? So they're still able to be included and enjoy the music and stuff. I thought that was like I guess it was a better way of going about it and stuff, because it also is empowering that community and stuff, and not just like completely like trying to get somebody who can hear to sympathize with them. I don't think that's what the deaf community necessarily wants 100%. Actually, I don't know. I'm speaking upon a community that I'm not a part of and stuff, but I think there are other ways of going about supporting them. Nothing against Young Thug. I think Young Thug is incredible. He's obviously changed music. Like he is a pioneer of the way the music is now is because of Young Thug. But the name changing thing is so fascinating. I think that's like a whole other topic that like one day that we can get into and have just a featured story on. What do you think?
Just like rapid name changes.
Yeah, because it happens so frequently.
Snoop Lion and Puff Daddy and
or just even little like Kendrick will have Kung Fu Kenny, or he'll have K Dot, or he'll have like all these different like
Cornrow Kenny,
and they're all different personalities and egos and like I think that's fun and that's really cool. and it's just like the music's different depending on the name. So that's awesome.
So that's all we got for February. Looking forward to March. We have Lil Yachty dropping Lil Boat 2. We'll for sure be talking about that. Atlanta premieres on March 1st, which by the time you hear this, it will have already premiered. So check out season 2 of Atlanta. Not season 2. Check out Atlanta, Robin's season. Caleb and I are probably going to do an episode in March or April at some point talking about the music in Atlanta and just kind of that musical scape. So check out Atlanta. It's a great show. It's by Donald Glover, and he's a genius. So yeah, you can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us on YouTube. Caleb, where can they find you on Twitter?
Yeah, on Twitter they can find me at Caleb_Burks. And then for Andy,
you can find me at Andy_is_Trill. We'll be favoriting, retweeting, whatever stuff about music and other stuff. But if you have any questions, if you want to let us know what you think of the show, tweet at us, ask us questions, give us recommendations for future topics for us to talk about, whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely. And in March, Andy and I will actually be recording for the first time together as he'll be coming to Baltimore. Yep. So we're excited for that episode, and hopefully that you'll continue to tune in. But I think that's all we got for this week.
Yeah, thanks so much for listening.
Signing off. I'm Caleb.
I'm Andy. See you next month.